Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Stone, host of the Grimm Truth Podcast. What you're about to see is a different version of episode 1 we did on Chris Sanders as we bring over the content from season 1 from audio to YouTube. This is the very first episode we did on Chris Sanders. You'll be able to tell right away it was my very first podcast ever. And we've come a long way in Chris's case from this episode to where we are now. But I wanted to bring it over because it always helps to kind of remember where you started. And as we continue to bring all the episodes from season 1 over to YouTube, it's always good to keep these cases fresh and in the minds of everyone that sees them, both from the new followers to the old followers, the ones that have stuck with us from day one. So make sure you take a look and listen to this podcast. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to the Grimm Truth Podcast YouTube channel. All you got to do is what it says at the bottom. Click that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the Grimm Truth Podcast or any other content related to the missing and the murdered, because maybe one person watching now can help bring the light to the truth and bring a loved one home. Without further ado, here's episode 1, Chris Sanders. All information in this program is known to be accurate at the time of recording. Any commentary by the host is for discussion purposes only. Anyone labeled a person of interest by the host or family has not been charged with a crime. All suspects charged with crimes related or unrelated to a case covered are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Opinions and views expressed by the host do not represent views of the families or sponsors of this program. In the U.S., there are over 600,000 missing persons cases reported each year. Many go unnoticed by the general public and are not covered by the media or investigated by law enforcement. Here is just one of these stories. From Grimm Media, I'm your host, Steve Stone, and this is the Grimm Truth Podcast. Missing persons come from all walks of life. It does not matter where they come from, what their economic background is, or whether they had checkered past or they were law-abiding citizens. To their families, they are loved ones who have vanished off the face of the earth, and they want to come home. They want answers. They want to know what happened. Families of the missing just want the truth. They want to trust that those they call on to help do so with integrity, competence, and compassion. I want this audience to know several things. First and foremost, you do not have to wait any length of time to report a person missing. Some jurisdictions do have a checklist, and they go by that. However, if a loved one is missing, and it's anything but routine, waste no time in alerting the proper authorities. If you have to, scream it from a mountaintop. Do not take no for an answer. Second, those who are missing will never be judged, no matter what their station in life is. They are people. They don't deserve to be missing, and their families don't deserve the pain of not knowing. Here at the Grimm Truth Podcast, we will never judge the missing or their families. Finally, we will not feed into rumors or come to any conclusions here. We will ask questions. We will tell the stories, use the information that we have, in the hope someone out there knows something. We ask that you listen with open minds, open hearts, and remember that the families, they're going to be listening too. And I'm sure they'll look at social media. Please think about them before you write something. It may affect them. It may hurt them. We may be hurting the exact people that we're trying to help. With all that being said, let's start giving a voice to the voiceless and get to the truth. Today's case is about Christopher Lynn Sanders. Christopher Lynn Sanders went missing on August the 13th, 2017 from Moynihan, Texas. The circumstances surrounding Chris's disappearance have baffled family and friends. On August 12, 2017, Chris, a family member, and co-workers were at an RV having pizza. Witnesses say Chris was having a heated discussion on his cell phone. It got so bad that several of the guests asked Chris to take the conversation elsewhere as to not to bother the other group. Chris returned after the conversation, ate pizza, and went back to his own RV. On the morning of August 13th, 2017, the alarm to Chris's Chevy Tahoe was going off. Chris's relative, Cody, heard the alarm and began to call Chris. Once he made contact, Chris advised that he was walking eastbound on I-20 to get some space, did not want to be bothered. Then the call was disconnected. Chris's cousin Cody was able to access the truck, get into the hood, and disconnect the battery terminals to shut off the alarm. Several more attempts were made to get in contact with Chris. However, they were unsuccessful, and this was the last time Chris Sanders was ever heard from. Now, here is where things don't seem to add up for me. It was a call from Angela, Chris's wife, to Sandy, Chris's mom, on August the 16th. Angela was well into the conversation with Sandy when finally she advised that Chris was missing. So here we are. We have August the 13th, Chris disappears. August 16th is when Chris's mom, Sandy, finds out that Chris has not been seen or heard from. It's not until Sandy goes down and is able to file a missing persons report on Chris to get the process rolling. I want to back up a minute and explain that Chris did suffer from bipolar disorder and high blood pressure. And it was stated that Angela was supposed to be coming up and bringing Chris some medication, 7 days worth. However, on the 18th of August, 2017, Angela went up and took possession of the RV and the Chevy Tahoe and brought it back home with her. Angela had also stated to Sandy that a welfare check was done for Chris, and the Monahans police went down there and to check the RV. However, it must be stated that they were not notified of Chris's medical condition nor the fact that he was missing. It was just a welfare check, which means they were going to make sure to see if the person was okay. However, Chris was not there, and that's about as far as that went. What's causing some contention, especially with some members of Chris's family, is the fact that Angela has not really done anything to help look for Chris, nor really raise any questions regarding Chris's disappearance. And this is some contention with Sandy, and I think that she feels that more should have been done on Angela's side for Chris. However, Sandy and a family friend by the name of Karen Knuckles Phillips has taken the reins and has been the guiding force in trying to locate Chris any way humanly possible. I want to make it clear that Angela is not a suspect in the disappearance of Chris, nor has she been questioned regarding his disappearance. Since the police report was made on Christopher's disappearance, there has been zero, keep in mind, it's been 4 years, almost 4 years, there have been zero physical searches in the area done by law enforcement where Chris went missing. The day Chris went missing, he was wearing a baseball cap, a TCU t-shirt, jeans, and steel-toe boots. When he left that day, we know for a fact that he had his cell phone, his wallet, and his keys. Another concern with Chris's disappearance is the fact that he, being off his bipolar medication for those 2 weeks, could cause certain side effects. And that was a concern that was raised in doing the profile for this case. Also, it's a possibility that he could have been affected. It's summertime in August there in Texas. It's very, very hot. And that may or may not have affected him. We have no evidence of this, of course. This is just pure speculation on our part. But this could be a factor. Another person who has known Chris for 30 plus years, Karen Knuckles Phillips, has been the guardian angel and advocate for her best friend and for Chris's family. Now, I spoke with Karen while getting information for this case, and she has done everything you can possibly think of, putting out thousands and thousands of flyers, Facebook pages created on Chris's behalf, and creating a large network of people determined to help find Chris and bring him home. Karen has been to homeless camps, called to check on John Doe's, and literally been all over doing what she can to help find Chris. During the conversation with Karen, she stressed to me that the family just want answers. And I couldn't agree more. This case is frustrating on so many levels. The time period Chris went missing before the authorities were notified, the lack of investigation into Chris's disappearance, this can be very, very frustrating. And we're not doing the blame game. At no time are we blaming police or bashing police here. There is some frustration regarding the Monahans Police Department and the fact that no searches for Chris have been conducted in the area. Now, there was a drone search, I believe that was done by somebody else that was not involved with the Monahans Police Department. But again, not bashing, but just I think the frustration here is Chris is missing. He has a medical condition, and nobody knows where he is, and not much, if anything, is being done. And this is very frustrating for the family, and without a doubt, the heart goes out to the family, and you can understand their frustration. This is their loved one. This is their son, their friend, and he's not anywhere to be found, and it can get frustrating. So with Chris's case, we have no searches that have been conducted. Not one witness statement has been taken from the people who saw Chris the night before or on the day he went missing. There have been no statements given by Angela, his wife. The DNA that the law enforcement collected to put in the NamUs database, which stands for National Missing and Unidentified Persons Database, was not entered when it was supposed to be. And in fact, Karen told me the first round of DNA happened to be misplaced. This case is now in the hands of the Texas Rangers, and it seems like Chris's case is getting cold. Now, Chris's story has been told before on other podcasts, but that does not mean that it should stop there. Chris has missed out on his children graduating from high school, birthdays, Mother's Days, and it's the consensus of those people who knew Chris the best that he wouldn't just take off, leave his children, not say anything to his mom or his friends. He just wouldn't disappear without a trace. Chris loved his family, and it would just be out of character for him to leave. Even with his bipolar condition, he just didn't do it. Now, there are things in this case that don't add up for the family. And having researched this case, they don't make sense to me either. When it comes to many missing person cases, especially adults, you get the phrase, adults maybe they wanted to start over. I can assure you, the family of Chris Sanders does not believe that. Another ridiculous stigma that gets passed around is that people that suffer from disorders like bipolar and other situations like that disappearing is just normal behavior. And that's an unfair stigma. It's not normal, and it can hinder a case that could very easily be solved. Someone knows what happened to Chris Sanders. They may not even know it. There might be information that could bring Chris home. This case is not simple. I want to state that, in my opinion, the ball was dropped, and it was dropped early. There was no investigation. There was no chance of any evidence to be collected. And again, no witness statements, written or otherwise. Chris's cell phone had been shut off by his wife, the account closed. Any messages that may have been on there are now gone. The RV and the Chevy Tahoe that were owned by Chris were allowed to be taken back home with Angela. If Chris just set out to get away for a while, how would he have come back home with no RV? According to reports, the rent at the RV park was paid up for 30 days. Angela, however, stated that she took the RV because she just couldn't afford the rent. Now, is it possible that Chris went out for a walk and just got lost, disoriented, and maybe succumbed to the elements? We don't know that. Did someone Chris knew have something to do with his disappearance? We don't know that either. And we don't know that because there wasn't a real concrete investigation done to get the answers for these questions. The family for almost 4 years still has no idea what happened to Chris and doesn't have the answers. And that is just too long. We do have a lot more answers than we did in that very first episode that we did over a year and a half ago. It's kind of weird listening to that. It was my very first podcast, but listening to that on Chris's case from where we were then to where we are now. We've made leaps and bounds, in my opinion, from debunking the BS story of Chris going for a walk during the day when more than likely he disappeared late Saturday night into that Sunday. We're coming up on 5 years in August. And I hope to have more answers than questions before that date looms. I've said this before and I'll say it again, we have a solid place to start looking for Chris. We are dealing with some logistical issues, some jurisdictional issues, and some legal issues. But we will be looking for Chris very, very soon. So, to those of you that know something, and I mean really know, not the pain carpenters and the other morons that interject themselves in a case just to get their 5 minutes of fame. Time's running out for you. The time that you have on this case is running out. It's time to speak up or you're going to get caught up. And it's easy to do. All you got to do is make one phone call, one email. Let us know the information. Because it's time to stop fearing the people that had something to do with this. And it's time to start fearing the justice system, the judicial system. It's time to start fearing the law. And it's time to start fearing God. Chris Sanders went missing on August the 13th, 2017. 5'11", 190 pounds, reddish blonde hair with blue eyes. Missing his top teeth. He was in prep to get his dentures. He has multiple tattoos on his chest, stomach, arms, and leg. If you have any information about the disappearance of Christopher Sanders, please contact the Texas Crime Stoppers at 1-800-252-TIPS. That's 1-800-252-8477. You can also call Philip Breeding with the Texas Rangers. His telephone number is 432-251-9233. 432-251-9233. And as always, you can remain anonymous. And I just want to remind everybody that there is a $4,000 reward for any information that leads to the whereabouts of Chris Sanders. That's going to do it for this episode, this relaunching of episode 1 on the Grimm Truth Podcast. Please make sure that if you have not done so already, subscribe to the Grimm Truth Podcast YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode of the Grimm Truth Podcast or any other related stuff with the missing and the murdered as we continue to be a voice for the voiceless in search of the truth. Have a wonderful day. God bless.